Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hi everyone, it's Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and I have with me today one of my favorite psychic people ever. This is Sarah Grace. Hi, Sarah.
Hey everybody.
So we're going to talk about a few things today, but Sarah has been through some very interesting experiences that she's going to share with us tonight. And I'm excited because these are fun things. I love hearing these stories, and I'm excited she's going to share them with us again. So please, Sarah, introduce us a little bit. Tell us what you do, and let's get a little background on what happened in this amazing experience that you had.
Okay. Hi everybody, and thanks for having me, Holly. I really appreciate it. And I also really enjoy you, and can't believe we just met a year ago. It feels like I've known you forever already.
Yeah.
So I am a psychic medium, Sarah Grace, psychic medium, and I was certified as a psychic medium. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember now. Blur's day ago. I think during the pandemic, sometime around there. I started classes in 2018, I believe. So I technically haven't been doing it too long, but I've had experiences my whole life, so it all made sense to do training and get certified. So I do all kinds of stuff. I could get into that later, doesn't matter, but I'm certified in a handful of things, including being ordained by the Order of Melchizedek. So I am a priestess or a reverend, but I think priestess is a really fun title. Yeah, so one of my, I'll say, most lessons learned moment during my psychic medium training, it was very early on in my classwork where I knew to protect myself and I knew a few other things, but I didn't really believe it. And why do that? And so also I would just forget to do that thing. So when I talk about protect myself, that means I am very vulnerable to not necessarily psychic attacks. That's one way to describe it, but I'm vulnerable to the spiritual world. Um, People that have abilities that can talk to, I'll call it the other side, and to other dimensions. We are a lighthouse. We are a homing beacon, and things will gravitate to us, kind of like the movie The Sixth Sense with the little boy and things coming to him. Well, you have to learn how to block that out, to tell them no. And I wasn't doing that on a regular basis at the time. Big lesson learned here. So I was going on a trip with an ex-boyfriend, and we were in Israel. It was around Christmas time. It was beautiful. We were walking around Tel Aviv our last night. We decided to do some touristy stuff, go to the hotel, get our bag, and then go to the airport. So we had the best day. I'm a cat lover. There's all kinds of cats around the city. So I'm in heaven and seeing all this historic stuff and just thinking about how amazing it is that this place has existed for thousands of years and all the history that it has. And, I'm walking where Jesus walked. And so it was towards the end of the night, and we walked by an old jail that was transferred, I don't know if that's the right word. It was made into a hotel.
Okay.
So we tried to go in to get a drink. They wouldn't let us in because we didn't have a reservation and they were booked. It's like, okay, cool. So we walked around the entire building just looking at it, and we're right at the water, at the Mediterranean. So we were, watching the waves come in. It's nighttime and enjoying it. And all of a sudden, while we're standing on a fence rail that we're leaning on and looking over and taking the last few photos before we head back to the hotel, I got very dizzy. Very, very dizzy. The dizziest I think I've ever been without, I've had concussions in my life and been knocked out in sporting events, and it was horrible how dizzy I was, to where I couldn't even walk. My ex had to help guide me. I couldn't even hardly sit down when we got into the taxi cab to go to our hotel. So we we get to the hotel and we're kind of in a rush at this point to get our bags and I'm still pretty dizzy and I still need help walking. I just think this is just really weird. This is abnormal. He's fine. Like maybe I had like some vertigo or something from the fence, the cliff thing we were standing on, looking at the ocean. Not a cliff, but we were high up and higher up. So I kind of think nothing of it. Get on the airplane eventually. I'm still a little weird. Like I don't feel myself, but I just shake it off like, oh, it's just, jet lag from getting there and then turning around and coming home. So it wasn't a long trip. So we get back to the US and it's like a Sunday or something. So football's on, get to my house and we need food to watch the football games. So I'm like, hun, don't worry about it. I'll go to the store. So I go to the store to get like 5 things because we don't need much, right? And somehow an hour and a half went by. And he called me and was like, "Are you okay? You went to the store a really long time ago." I had no idea that so much time had passed or what I was doing. So when I like basically came back, I had all this random stuff in the cart. I had bought coffee. I was walking around drinking coffee and I was still really out of it. And I'm like, I I don't know what just happened. You said how much? And so I was really confused about the time lapse and not having time. So went ahead and just bought all the stuff that was in the cart and came home. And while I was coming home, I was getting these weird urges to wreck the car. And that's so not me, right? I love my car. So I love not having to deal with, hospital bills and everything. So I get to the house and he's like just firing questions off at me like, are you okay? What happened? Why did this take you so long? Why did you get all this other stuff that we won't eat? And so I go and I'm petting one of my cats in the living room. He has the football game on already. And all of a sudden, I feel hands choking me.
Oh my
And they weren't just choking, like I was being strangled. And I stopped breathing. I completely didn't have air happen. And I didn't know what was going on. I got so scared and I didn't want to scare the guy who wasn't too invested in the spiritual stuff at the time. So I ran upstairs to the bedroom and I'm freaking out. I'm texting my teacher, but of course it's a Sunday. Like she doesn't have her cell phone on her all like constantly, right? So I'm texting my teacher, texting a few of my friends. Like I don't know what's going on. I finally got air, but I could tell like when you get choked, your windpipe is damaged, and I was
yeah.
still having issues. Like I was having a lot of pain, but there were no actual hands around my neck, and so I don't know what to do. So I get my sage, and so I sage myself, and I'm like, this will kick something, right? So I sage myself, and then I'm like, well, do I? I can't believe I'm telling you this. I don't know if I need like direct contact because again, I'm early on in these classes, so I have no idea. Like we'd only like done a test sage of the house to see how it went once. So I like, do I need direct contact with the skin? So I take all my clothes off and I run to my ex and I'm like, you have to get this smoke all over my body. And he has asthma. So he's like, I can't deal with this. So he sages me and I go back upstairs and I'm trying to keep calm. My teacher responds back to me and she helps me walk through what to do to call some archangels in, kick this spirit onto the other side. I ended up um Spirit ended up showing me kind of what he looked like. I couldn't so I never wanted to see what his face looked like, but they showed me his hands and I'm pretty certain he ended up being a spirit that had died in that jail. Like probably
Makes
thousands
sense.
of years ago.
Sure.
And he'd been hanging out there wanting a free ride. And because I didn't protect myself while I was walking around there, I totally forgot to put my shields
Yep.
up, that
Yep.
he had a free ride to the US and
Wow.
was looking to take over and control me. Yeah, it was so scary. Some of
Yes.
my friends even mention this story once in a while to this day. And well, you guys, you tell I'm laughing because of not knowing how to do things. And so I
Right.
ended up jumping into the deep end with this. And I still
Yeah.
remember talking to Archangel Michael after
Yeah.
I calmed down, because I couldn't even do much of my homework in the
Yeah.
spiritual class because I was
Yeah.
so traumatized and so scared to
I'm
even
sure you
connect to
were.
the other side after this for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And I remember Archangel Michael, he's a jokester with me. Like, he likes to throw some one-liners every once in a while and make jokes. And he actually said, so I was like, why did you allow this to happen? He was like, what did you learn from this? I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, learned a lot. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, it was very scary. I actually still to this day, well, this was in 2019 when this happened. So I still to this day make decisions and remember to protect myself because of that experience when I'm going on a trip to Wyoming in June. And there's a hotel that the group is staying at. It's with a
Yeah.
bunch of friends. And I can't stay there because it's haunted. It's very well known that it's haunted. And I actually opted out of staying there because I was like, I can't deal with that again. Like, I
Yeah.
know at some point over a 4-day weekend, I'm going to forget to protect myself and I'm not dealing with, yeah. So it was very scary. And the hands, like seeing what the hands looked like around my neck was even more traumatizing. But the fact that some entity that you can't see literally almost choked me out and killed me.
So
So crazy.
I will tell you, and we can't get into it in this episode, but I'm gonna send you some information because I have had my experiences over the years as a psychic and more than once. And so there are some things you can do to help the protection stay on you and some things to help
Okay.
keep things away from you that I will share
Okay.
with you later. Because you're right. Because for anyone listening or watching, you don't have to be thinking about the spirit world for it to connect with you. And especially when you're someone who, like she's saying, when you do light work, when you have intuition, when you are open to the spirit realm, you're kind of an antenna. And that's noticeable. And it doesn't mean that only bad things are attracted to you. It just means that you're going to be collecting stuff as you move around the earth. And there are times, there are incidences where things that are not nice are going to be attracted to you. And there are ways of dealing with that. And I definitely recommend that if you're interested in this subject matter, you go down the rabbit hole, as we say, and do some research because it's important to protect yourself all the time. It really, really is. Because, yeah, we are beacons of light in a dark place sometimes, and they love to hang out with our positive energy. Our
Yep.
frequency is
They
very attractive.
they
Yeah,
want it, and they want it gone. They want it omitted because we're going to wake other people up, and they don't want that. They like the
right.
darkness.
Yes, absolutely.
One of my friends I do ghost hunts with, he forgets to protect himself, and I lecture him so much on like, you have no idea what they're capable of if you if you don't protect yourself. So he knows better now, but
Well, I
it
have
is
a
an
very good
ongoing.
friend.
Oh, thank you. So that's the
Yeah,
first thing I tell anybody when they start asking me about connecting to the other side. Even some people just want to listen to a certain frequency, like a YouTube video or something when they're going to sleep. And I'm like, think about why you're doing that, not just because you want to jump on a bandwagon because you saw a Facebook advertisement of this,
right.
but protect yourself before you do this. Like, if you're starting to open yourself up to the dream world and welcoming things into your dreams, you got to protect yourself. You can't
Right.
trust everything over there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's very wise. Well, and that's the thing too. So let's go back to what brought you into wanting to take psychic classes. What attracted you to that?
Okay, I'm trying to think of like where to start. So my whole life, I've had ghost experiences. Middle school, I had an experience where a loved one that I knew that passed away, one of my best friends ended up living in his house, and things would happen there. I'm held seventh grade, like
Okay.
14, 13, somewhere around
Yeah.
there. So seventh grade, and we're doing things in the house, and the faucet will turn on, a door would open for me before I would leave the house, and I would always just say, "Thanks, Vic." And it was just like, oh, okay, cool. But I was always into ghost stuff. R.L. Stein books, vampire, werewolf,
Right.
cryptids, you name it, all the things in my childhood. My mom probably didn't like any of it, but she's like, oh, she's reading. I should probably just keep buying the books for her.
Sure.
Um, and then fast forward, I started having a lot of vivid dreams of my grandma. What
Okay.
now I have learned is actual visits from her from the other side.
Okay.
Definitely didn't know it at the time, but they were amazing. I still remember every single one of them, just like it was a
Mhm.
real core memory of her being alive. And so throughout time, things kept progressing and more stuff was happening. I was starting to have psychic visions. Then I had a near-death experience. So May of 2012, I had a near-death experience where I went over to the other side, argued with God that I didn't want to come back, and I obviously lost that battle. Um, and then after that, just like all well, a lot of the stories you hear after near death experiences, abilities amplify, and that's what happened. I started having more and more psychic things happen to me where I'd predict an injury, or I would hear a car wreck happen, and it ended up being one of my best friends got in a car accident. He's
Oh,
okay, but so things like that started happening
right.
and happening more frequently to where I was dating a guy and his grandma came to me. And we weren't serious dating. We'd only been on a couple of dates
Yeah.
over a few weeks. And his grandma came to me, and her message she gave me, I did not understand it, but I knew who she was. I knew on what side of the family she was. I knew I could still describe you to her to a T, including what necklace she was wearing. And this guy and I never talked about loved ones that had passed away. So I'm freaking out, like freaking out to the max. And I talked to a couple of my friends about it. They're like, this is so cool. You got to talk to them and see if this was really his grandma. So I did, and the guy really, really freaked out, which he should. Very valid response. And yeah, so turned out I was right about all the things, describing her and including her dad's side of the family. Him and I stopped talking, and I got an appointment with a psychic medium to get help to figure out what was going on with me. And that ended up being my teacher.
Nice.
She said the first thing she said when I sat down was, "You can do what I do. You could be here in this chair." And I was like, I'm in. How? Where do I start?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
That's amazing.
yep.
And now you've expanded quite a bit. There's lots of other things that you've worked into, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this road has been so fun. So if anybody listening, if any of this resonates to people, be patient with yourself because the right opportunities and the right classes cross your path at the right time. And listen to your higher self, like yes or no. And if it's a shouting yes, do it. So I did. I'm a Reiki master now, and I also am certified in advanced IET. IET is integrated energy therapy. So not many people know about this, which they should because it is absolutely amazing. It is healing energy from angels, from archangels. So
Right.
I'm just a conduit of healing. It's pressure points. I don't push too hard, but I do push on some pressure points on your body. You kind of lay down like you're on a Reiki table receiving Reiki, or sitting. I could even do it remotely. And you remove each pressure point is a different thing, just like your throat chakra. It's to blocks of communication. So because I have done all of the classes except the teacher one for IET, I can help heal past lives as well. So I can tap into past lives and the energy or injuries or whatever, like emotions that you've carried over from a past life. I could help heal those. And I also give you the option as a client if you want to hear what I'm seeing as well. Some people want to hear, some people don't. Totally fine. Up to you. It's your time and your body. So I love IET. I love blending IET with Reiki. The two energies together are the most beautiful thing that I am biased, but I think it's like the most beautiful thing that you could ever combine. Like angels and Reiki, and like Reiki has so much history and the goodness behind it.
Yeah.
And both wants for the best and highest good of everybody as well. So yeah, so I'm certified in that. Like I mentioned earlier, I am ordained. I live in the state of Virginia, and to practice Reiki on people and IET in order to touch somebody, Virginia considers it a religious practice. So you have to be ordained to legally touch. So I got ordained, and that was an incredible experience. Order of Melchizedek. The Reverend was just phenomenal. The day spending with him and hearing his stories and what he's accomplished in his life. Um, oh gosh, I can do house clearings and blessings. I do ghost hunts. Yeah, this journey has just been phenomenal. I've met so many amazing people, some of my best friends and soul sisters and soul family along this journey. I do, I don't think I've come across anything I haven't been able to face either. I've seen some bad energy, bad elementals. I usually don't like to use the word demon, but some more on the evil side of things as well. Even an alien race, like a lizard person, people refer to as lizard people. I've encountered good aliens. This journey has just been such a fun ride, and I cannot wait what the universe has in store for me and where it goes.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
And I'm just
I haven't finished it yet, but I took a galactic Akashic reading class from Debbie Solaris as well.
now, what
Yeah,
is that?
haven't quite finished
Explain
that
that.
one, huh?
What? Okay, I
I'll
wanted
explain
you to
that.
just go
So,
back to a couple things. I wanted you to explain for people that are listening and that haven't been around it. Let's go back for just a moment and talk about Reiki a little bit and talk about what that is, because a lot of
mhm.
people have heard of it and have no idea what it's about. So I want, because you're qualified and certified in it, I want you to explain for the listeners and viewers, what is Reiki? What does that do and how does that work?
So Reiki has a lot of different definitions, and I feel like there's different definitions of it because each practitioner feels it differently and we
Okay.
administer it differently, even though we're trained in a certain way. I feel it differently than my teacher did, than how she taught me. So I like to explain Reiki as a healing modality that helps get anxiety and stress and sometimes some aches and pains out of your body. It's To me, it's more surface level, like aura, and you don't necessarily have to touch, but it's an auric healing that really does help tremendously with stress and anxiety. It's actually approved now to be in hospitals and some nursing homes. So you can give
Nice.
Reiki to patients. I know a few hospitals around here where I live in Northern Virginia have Reiki practitioners go in. And oh, your other question. Uh, with Reiki, you also have healing energy that goes in. So what's taken out, there's love and good energy that is also put in. But Reiki's I get frustrated with the state of Virginia saying it's a religious practice because it's definitely not religious. Um, but it's good to have in your back pocket. I got a bad injury last year And one of my good friends and I did Reiki on the injury together. And it did feel bad. Like I still ended up having to have surgery, but it felt better to where I could at least sleep a little bit at night
Yeah.
after the Reiki was done. So, um, and I know some people who have said that it's actually helped them to where they didn't need a surgery at all. I wasn't I wasn't in a state where I could continuously do that on my own
Right.
at the time. So, yeah, did I explain that well?
You did. You did. And what I just wanted to say I'm someone that's actually had that done to me. A friend of mine actually who lives 4 hours away from where I live did a remote healing on me. And she taught me something I thought was fascinating and said that trauma in the body and soul goes through the liver. And so I actually had some trauma that I'd experienced that was in my liver. And so she helped clear it out. And I'm kind of shocked how much I felt better. It was kind of incredible. I did not realize that things were hanging out in my physical body from a trauma that I'd had that was staying with me emotionally. And so I'm definitely a fan. It definitely worked for me. And because we've all had that experience where you can't really explain what's bothering you, but you know you don't feel good. And you don't have to understand everything about energy in the body to really make sense of it. Just know that, our body makes electricity and our thoughts and our feelings go through our body and they leave things sometimes. And sometimes our experiences do. And this is not
Yeah.
a new science. This is an old science, and it is a science. It's been used for generations. And I can definitely say for me, I'm a fan because it definitely helped me. Definitely.
That's so wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Love, love,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I enjoy giving Reiki and IET. So I do if a client doesn't know what they want, I'll let spirit guide me on what
Right.
healing to provide them. And sometimes it's a combo of both and seeing so the angels also do the same thing where with what is taken away is replaced with love and light.
Yes.
And seeing both of these beautiful energies go into somebody, I've definitely had people that have said in remote sessions. So you could do all of this remotely, just like your example, the 4 hours away. I've done some remotely for a dog, even for one of my
Yeah.
friend's dogs, and she said that because I told her I was like, all right, just I'm gonna tap in. If she doesn't want this, then I'm not gonna force this on her.
Right. Right.
And so I'm texting my friend, and she said, whenever I texted, okay, I'm asking her if I could do this, she said that the dog's head actually sat up, looked around the room, and did almost like a head nod, and then
Oh,
laid back down and went back to sleep. And
oh
I was
my
like,
gosh,
that's
that's
so
cool.
cool.
Yes, it is.
So
That is too
you,
cool.
yep. So you could do all of these healing things for animals as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
Mhm.
the IET energy healing, what is that in difference compared to the Reiki or the?
Mhm.
Am I saying that
So
right? Is it
yeah,
right?
integrated energy therapy, IET.
Okay. Okay.
Is that what you yeah. So
Yeah.
that gets the issues out of the tissues is the phrase that they like to
I
use
love
in that. And so the
that.
issues out of the tissues is because Reiki will help with anxiety and stuff more on a surface level. And then IET will literally get down into the muscle and help pull that emotion or that energy. So it's mind, body, and soul. So it whatever level that energy is harnessed in, you literally like the client will be sitting there and I pull it out of them and I could feel, pardon me, I feel like the rubber band. It's kind of stretchy
Yeah.
and it'll stop. So each level means something different. So if it's
Okay.
in your body that you're holding this, it'll stop at a different spot. And then if it's in your soul, it'll stop a little bit higher. So then
Oh,
I pause, let the angels do their work, let my mind, like we do some work together. And then
right.
I'll feel that energy release. And then I take it and I literally just like let it go.
Right.
and I release it back into the world, so your body's not harnessing that anymore. So yeah, big difference between Reiki and IET.
Yeah.
But your Reiki, you could do some trigger points and some touching as well. But especially the sessions I've had, I haven't had too much of the touching. But IET, you definitely like even here, so you get on your crown, and my hands will actually be pushing just a little bit, slightly a bit of pressure, like on a trigger point. So you're triggering that muscle to get ready to release. And with IET, I've also found people, like the client, will actually cry more because that there's an emotional release with some of these places, and you don't know why you're crying. That happened to me when I was doing training and getting it administered on me. I had no idea why tears were coming and why they couldn't stop, but it was something I was keeping and I was holding on to. And when it was released, it was yeah, I would just sit there and sob, not knowing why I was crying, and then feel amazing afterwards. The experience afterwards is weight off of your shoulders, and you kind of don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And just I want to throw this out there too. So we're both going to be attending an event that we met at, which is the Oregon Ghost Conference in March of this year down in Seaside, Oregon. And Sarah was just telling me before we started that she's actually going to be part of a team effort to do some past life regressions. So there's going to be an opportunity to work with Sarah there, and I highly recommend, if you're interested, I will talk about her contact information after we're done chatting. But definitely, if you haven't been to it yet, the Oregon Ghost Conference is a 3-day event in Seaside, Oregon every March. And it's delightful and it's loaded with good information and some wonderful people. And this is a fantastic opportunity. If you've ever been curious about your past life, definitely check in with Sarah and her group and sign up for the class, because it's going to be amazing. It's going to really be something. I know it'll be wonderful and successful.
Hmm.
Definitely, for sure.
No, thank
And
you.
you have a lot of good stories to share also, Sarah. You've been through some very interesting things. I'd love for you to share a little bit about the other group that you are in that deals with unidentified flying objects. Can we talk about that for a
Awesome.
minute?
Another favorite topic of mine.
Yes.
I I appreciate like-minded souls to where I have a judgment-free zone because most of the world isn't so welcoming to this. It's more welcoming now. Things have
Yes.
changed over the past
It's
few
getting
years, that's
better.
for
It's getting
sure.
better.
But yeah, I am a part of the UAP community. It's not a task force anymore. I don't work for the organization that's in the Pentagon. I do not work for them, but I started as a part of the task force and met a lot of cool like-minded people. I My motto used to be "We must find Mulder's sister" from X-Files because I was a massive X-Files fan growing up.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm still a part of the community quite a bit right now, watching the whistleblowers, um, knowing some things that are coming. This year is going to be a whirlwind. So folks that follow the UAP community, yeah, buckle up. Make sure I have two seatbelts maybe, because this year is going to be quite the ride. I am so excited to see what happens. I don't know all the details of things that are coming because I'm not privy to everything. Um,
Sure.
I do know a couple of the whistleblowers that'll be coming out this year as well, and it's not easy. I'm so proud of them. They are already getting a lot of slander from some people that do know that they're coming out. So it's totally unfortunate. Things that David Grush has said about not getting attacked like physically, but threats and stuff. It's happening to my friends left and right all around me. I will actually be James Fox. He put out Moment of Contact, The Phenomenon, and a lot of other films. I will be in his film. He should be releasing it later this year. I think fall,
Nice.
maybe. And so I'll actually be in his film coming up. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I obviously believe in aliens. I've had communication with them in some of my meditations. I've actually woke up in the middle of the night and had one in my room, and it was like protecting me. It was pacing back and forth like one of the guards at the London Palace.
Interesting.
Um, I I'm really excited. I'm also kind of scared to see how the world will react,
Yeah.
especially with this day and age with all the AI technology, which is
Yes.
unfortunate too, because a lot of people like clicks on videos and they like to have likes and stuff. So there's a lot of AI and a lot of fake things out there right now. But um, yeah, what's coming is going to be amazing.
So can
Hmm.
you share just really briefly what the work was that you used to do so people
Yeah, I
understand your
used to
background a little
actually,
bit?
I worked in the Department of Defense and was a part of the UAP task force. And so you get videos in, whether they be classified or unclassified. So we would look
Right.
at stuff from YouTube and all the we call it open source. So the stuff on the internet that you could see,
Right.
and we would investigate them. We would look to see if it was, a bolide. So also I have an astrophysics background and I have a master's in countering weapons of mass destruction. So I have a very scientific brain,
Yes.
and that's always the first thing that happens is my science brain is number one, first thing that hits anything
Right.
ever anywhere. And then sometimes my spiritual brain will be like, hey, I'm still here, come on girl, you know that's aliens.
Right.
So I will sometimes even I'll see a video and let my gut take over, and I'll end up just waving at my monitor because I know what I just saw wasn't from Earth.
Yeah.
um I we looked at just about anything, even when people would claim they had, a pilot had a video, like a commercial airliner of, United Airlines. I'm making this up. But a
Okay.
commercial airliner would have a video of something, and it's Venus. Venus is bright in the air, can maybe twinkle depending on the elevation. So, especially if it's at like a low elevation angle, it'll twinkle because you're looking through more atmosphere.
Sure.
So, somebody might see that as movement, and so it'll turn out to be just Venus, and so we debunk it. And sometimes we can't say what we're seeing, so it's an
Right.
actual UAP because we can't identify it. So does it mean it's aliens? No. It could just be China's developing some technology we don't know about, but it's still unidentified. So just saying
Right.
UAP doesn't always mean aliens either. It's
Right.
really fun. And
Right.
I ended up working, hold on. It is so dry here in Virginia, even though we've
Yeah,
been
it's
getting
dry
tons of
here
rain.
too. Yes.
I ended up being able to meet some really cool people through the task force, and one of the guys developed an app to triangulate and locate UAPs. So the app is called Phenom, and it's so let's say Holly and I live 10 miles from each other. And I'm outside one night and I see what I think is a UAP. I'll get the app out and it'll have all kinds of metadata on it. So it'll have the direction you're looking, pardon me, hiccups. And it'll have all kinds of metadata of degrees, angles. Um, I forget all of the data points that it has in it, but there's a lot. And you could record. So I'll record, hit send, and it'll activate your network. So Holly will get a notification, hey, Sarah just saw this UAP. Go outside, look at this angle on the horizon or wherever it is, see if you could see it. So Holly goes out, like, I don't see it. So one of my other friends might, see the notification, and John will go outside, and he is 10 miles the other way that Holly is, but he sees it. So we know where the UAP is going and can eventually end up hoping to triangulate the aircraft. And Logan also plans eventually on using it to help identify stuff like cryptids and maybe some even ghosts, some spiritual things as well, because there is a very blurry line
Yep.
between the alien world and the spiritual world.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. So
Hmm.
can you share with us one of your experiences where you communicated with an alien and what that was like and how did that start?
Yeah. I think my first time I'm trying to think the very first time it was during the pandemic. So I was home that summer
Okay.
and I turned out I'm the world's biggest extrovert and turns out I actually really like being home. So I ended up really enjoying the shutdown and
Yes.
learning how to love time with myself. So I was outside laying on a yoga mat after a workout and decided to meditate, enjoying some sunshine and my body relaxing after a good workout outside. And I asked, sometimes when I meditate, I have a goal. I want to go somewhere. I want to talk to a spirit guide. I want to do something specific. So at this instance, I said, take me where I need to go, show me something that I need to learn. And I ended up and going, I'll call it to the stars. So I left Earth and I went into the stars, which I love doing because astrophysicist, right? And I love imagining different planets and all kinds of like I love visuals like that. So they took me to the stars and all of a sudden I was on a planet that was kind of like something out of a sci-fi movie. Pardon me. Um and I ended up meeting what I'm pretty certain was an Arcturian. I actually can't remember her name. It was a she and it was something like a shorter name. But she said we don't really care about names here. This is only for people for Earth. And she ended up showing me who I was in a past life.
Nice.
And she told me that it would take a while to process this and to keep laying there in the sun for a little bit longer. And then she reminded me that we're all one on this planet and oh, man, I'm trying to now I can't remember what journal it was in, or else I'd go grab it because I know I flagged it in my journal too, because I wrote her name down and everything. Um, but she reminded me we were all one, and to keep being out in nature a lot, and she said that's where I'll be the most. So it
Yep.
was kind of like she wanted to help me and be a guide for me as well, and she told me that she'd be there for me processing about the past life. And she gave me a few symbols, and I wrote those down as well. I don't know. I think the best I would just be able to describe them is light codes. Like they don't, it's like another language or something that I don't understand, but I also wrote those down on the symbols that she gave me. And yeah, she kissed me on the forehead, and where she kissed me on the forehead, it glowed this beautiful bright green color. And she was like, I'll always be with you if you need help. And I was like, I'm gonna need time for this. I gotta
Yeah.
process this. She was probably like 6.5 feet tall, I'd say,
I was just
and
going to ask you, did
blue
you describe
skin.
her? Did you see her in your mind?
Huh?
That's what I'm dying to hear.
Yeah,
I'm dying to hear her
yeah.
appearance, what she sounded and looked like.
Yeah, more like a bluish purple type skin. Not quite iridescent, like it didn't sparkle, but it didn't like it almost looked like it should sparkle, like it was like pearlescent maybe. I guess I
Okay.
should say.
Okay.
No hair, and she had on a like an amulet on like a it was a little bit longer, like an emerald green amulet with different colored rhinestones all around it, and it was huge. It was bigger than a ping pong ball.
Okay.
And she had on these beautiful robes. It was like a red color robe with some gold on it. And it looked like the colors looked really pretty with her skin as
Hmm.
well. And she had almost like a ridge or something on her head
Okay.
and bigger eyes. Her eyes almost looked like a mixture between human and I'll call it like a reptile type, like bigger almond shaped eyes, but they
Okay.
looked. I can't. Yeah, so it had circles for irises, but um, yeah, it was almost like a. animal mix with a human for eyes. And they were bigger, like the almond shape offset. And we talked by telepathy. Telepathically is how we communicated. And then feeling. So it was also a feeling and a sense of love and how much she wanted to help Earth. And it felt like she had been with me for multiple lifetimes, like almost like we knew each other
Nice.
in another life as well.
That's awesome. So
Hmm.
how did you know she was an Octarian? And how would you know that?
That
Did
was
she?
because of also also during the pandemic, some good friends and we'd watch a lot of interviews on Gaia, on the Gaia network.
Okay.
So there was a couple of people that channel some alien races, and from
Okay.
descriptions on the things that we were watching, I could tell she was more likely to be an Arcturian.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, I spent time really well during the pandemic.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it.
Drank,
Yeah.
drank some wine with the friends that became family, and yeah,
Nice.
watched a few sitcoms on Netflix over and over, and
Of
then
course.
interviews on Gaia.
Nice. That's awesome.
Mhm,
That is awesome.
mhm.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I've had another encounter I mentioned earlier where I woke up in the middle of the night, and I doubted it at first because I was like, "Am I awake? Am I not awake?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain I'm wide awake right now. And I have two cats and they are both still asleep around me. But I was kind of sitting up, like I just kind of raised my head up in bed, so I didn't fully sit my body up.
Sure. Sure. Okay.
But there was um this was probably a year or a year and a half ago when
Okay.
this happened, and it was an alien. I don't know what race he was, but it was like he was pacing back and forth in my room at the foot of my bed protecting me. He had this sword that was, I'll call it made of crystal.
Okay.
It was like a glowing pinkish, bluish, like iridescent type thing that he
Okay.
was holding. It was this huge, like machete type sword that you're like cut through the jungle with. And he only looked down, and I was like, and I actually tried talking with him. I was like, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" Because he was like really focused, so he was only looking down and he was crossing back and forth. So all I saw was side profile of his
Okay.
face, and I could tell he had like similar features to the one I mentioned earlier, where there was like a ridge on his head, and I didn't see any ears. I couldn't because it was nighttime, in my bedroom. I couldn't tell what color he was, but he seemed to have a bluish tint to his skin. Um, and had like honestly, it looked kind of like clothes, like something from Star Trek on, like some type of plain clothing, like uniform type thing on. But this sword was just glowing in my room, and so I was like, "Am I really like?" I really started second guessing if I was awake or not, and yeah, and he just kept on pacing, and I was like, "You good, dude?" And he didn't acknowledge I was talking. All right, and I didn't feel a sense of threat. I didn't feel scared. I actually felt I didn't feel love necessarily, but I just felt comfort. So I was like, all right. So I laid back down and went back to sleep. And that was I felt like it was around a time in my life where some of the UAP stuff was really starting to accelerate. So I felt like whoever he was, or the people that were over him telling him to protect me, they had me see this to know that I'm protected on their side as well as mine.
That's awesome. Because I do know of several people that have had very negative alien experiences and are terrified of them. Yeah. And from all different age groups, adults and children alike. And so it's definitely an interesting subject because there's always the curiosity, what do they want and why are they here? And, the question of are they real is kind of mute at this point for most people that are in the community, because there's an understanding that they're there, period. And what their purpose is always a question. And so hearing a positive story about an alien sounds much nicer to me, as something that we want to hear more about, definitely. And now there's a very special story that I love that you have, that I kind of reminded you before we started. And this was a very surprising event that happened. If you would set the scene for us and kind of tell us where you were, the time of year, and what was going on around you, and then tell us what it is that you saw.
Yes, thank you. So it was June of last year, so June of 2023, and I was with a friend in outside of Asheville, North Carolina. There was beautiful old energy in those amazing mountains. So we were actually going UFO hunting. We were going UAP hunting that night to Brown Mountain. So it was Brown Mountain lights. If anybody wants to Google it, I did see lights that night that were very unexplained. I saw lights that were explained as well. So we're going to my friend, one of his good friends. We were going to her house. Her and her husband were hosting supper. So all of us that were going to go to UAP hunting that night, we all went to go have supper prior. And we walked up, and I don't know any of these people there except for my friend. And we show up, and outside of this house, it's just such beautiful energy. It just felt so loving and cared for. And the trees loved these people. Like, it was love all around. So I'm walking up to the house, and I see fairies. I see fairies playing in a pond. I see fairies, like it's like a resort for them. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing these fairies all over the place, which is rare for me to see at this point in my life. Like, I've seen them before, but not, it's like a resort, like they're on vacation or something, and just enjoying life. And so I'm just taken back by it. So go in, fast forward, all the women that are there, we kind of gather in the kitchen at one point and finishing, cutting lettuce or whatever. And the woman who owns the house, she mentioned something about fairies, and I was just went, oh. And again, I don't know these people, they don't know me. And I
Right.
just said, oh, by the way, you have a lot of fairies outside of here, like especially in the front in the pond. She goes, oh, I know. And she just continues to keep cutting, and I'm just like, oh,
Steph,
that's a normal thing. That
I love
I'm
it.
with my people. I'm in the right place at the right time.
Right.
So she ends up telling a story about how they owned and ran a pretty historic hotel. I forget what type of hotel it is. That's not too far from where the house is. And
Okay.
she was saying one day that a sprite kept on messing with the trash can, with trash in the trash can, and was running in and out. And I was so amazed at how the universe brought all of these people together. I'm going UFO hunting, and I get to talk about fairies and sprites out in the open.
Right.
It was really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of incredible. And
Yeah.
to be fair, um, I think the pandemic was somewhat of, I don't know, it feels like a barrel of gunpowder in a way, because it lit a fire for so many people I know to come out into more paranormal type things. I started my psychic page during the pandemic. I've been a psychic over 50 years, but I never did anything public until the pandemic. I kept encountering people that were depressed and sad, and I thought, oh my God, if I could just do a reading for these people, they might feel better. And it took off from there. And I still have it, and it's amazing. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on in the world right now. I genuinely believe that we're in a new cycle that's going to keep blossoming like a garden in spring. It's going to keep growing. And I love it. I mean, I think there's a lot to be learned, and it's fun too, because a lot of what's old is becoming new again, information wise, which is so exciting. It's so exciting. I absolutely
It's
love that.
so very true. I tell people, well, when I state, which is kind of on a regular basis, how I'm not going to reincarnate on Earth again, especially as a woman. But it's such an amazing time to be here. We are witnessing the transition of so many things, so much technology. We're on the brink of understanding quantum, well, not on the brink, but we're understanding more of quantum physics.
Right.
And quantum physics is starting to get married with the spiritual world of sending healing across the world. And we have sensors now that can pick up that energy that you send. And it's an absolutely incredible time to be alive and to witness the awakening on a global level happening.
It's amazing. I'm
Hmm.
just grateful that people are talking about the paranormal more, and I'm really glad that we have, opportunities and places to go and talk about it with large groups of people, which I find amazing and fun.
Yep.
There's just a
I'm.
lot of opportunities to be involved in it now, and I think it's great because
Mhm.
it's been a part of my life forever, and it's nice to be able to talk out in the open about stuff and have people not only be receptive but be like, yeah, me too. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
amazing. I love it.
Yep. And to see people's faces when I tell them you could be a psychic medium too. A hundred
Yes,
percent of humans are born with all these abilities.
yes, we
It's
are.
just whether we tap into them or not, or shut them down. And
Right.
seeing their face, like, wait, really? Like, yeah, I'm not kidding. You could
Yeah.
do this. Anybody can. We just have our
Right.
specialties. I connect
Yes.
to angels much easier than I do other things.
Right. That's amazing.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
Sarah, how would someone get a hold of you if they would like a reading? How can someone reach you?
Yeah, good question. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I have a website. Website is sarahgracewarrior.com. And on social media, Facebook, I'm Sarah Grace Psychic Medium. And you could probably use Warrior in there too as a search because it'll have my website on the profile. And
Okay.
Instagram is Sarah Grace Warrior. Um, I have a cell phone and I honestly don't remember the phone number. How bad is that? It's
That's
a
okay.
703. It's a Virginia number. But there's a cell phone as well that I promise the number is on all of those modes of communication I've already mentioned as well.
Okay.
Um, yes, you can reach out, send a message on any of those things, and reach me there.
That's awesome. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening. And if you like this information and this content, please hit the like button on YouTube and share with a friend because that's how we keep things going, to keep sharing this information so more people can talk about woo woo stuff. And I'm Holly, and this is Sarah, and we really appreciate you listening and watching. And we'll be back with more fun stuff again. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Ta-da! Thank you for listening to Holly's Pandorium. If you have stories to share, you can find me on hollyspandorium.com, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and our wonderful Metal Cross Radio at radioking.com. Thanks again for listening. Thank you for listening to Holly's Pandorium. If you have stories to share, you can find me on hollyspandorium.com, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and our wonderful Metal Cross Radio at radioking.com. Thanks again for listening.